I was listening at the back, and it was really good actually, because a few things popped up in my mind, and because I was at the back, I didn't interrupt. Otherwise I probably would have. But Emma talked about time, and she talked about, and this will kind of link into assumptions, so I'm going on a tangent that will hopefully inform you. But we talk about time when we say in 2 minutes, in a second, and that's actually really hard because the time concept is really difficult, and we trip kids up and we trip ourselves up all the time. We go, yeah, I'll get to that in a minute, I'll get to that tomorrow, and then we never get to it. So in actual fact, don't talk about time when you're talking with these children, talk to them about the activities. I've given you this question, I'm going to go and ask a few more people, and then I'm going to come back to you. So you're giving them some discrete activities that they can see, and then they know that after you've had that. So once I've finished the conversation with this person, I'm actually going to turn around and talk to you. Because you actually don't know how long that conversation is going to take. We keep guesstimating and assuming it's going to be a 2 minute or a 5 minute, and usually those things end up being a lot more. How many of us have been told, yeah, it'll be 2 minutes, and then you're waiting 10 minutes later for someone and you're thinking, this is really annoying. We keep doing that to kids. So please don't think about the time. Think about what are the physical things I'm going to do between now and coming back to you. And it's okay to say to a child, hey, I'm really, really busy right now, but I definitely want to talk to you, and I'll come back to you by the end of the day and we'll work out when and how we're going to do that. Giving them some information, not just a blow off of in 5 minutes. Also the feeling discounting. We're very quick, like, I don't want to pick on anyone, but I'll pick on Emma. How are you feeling today, Emma? Give us an emotion. Just throw an emotion out there. Hot. And how do you feel if I say, actually, no, you're not. You're actually probably really, really cold, and I think you need to put a cardigan on. Discounted? Value?
Yeah. Annoyed. I would assume you're an idiot, that you didn't know that I felt like what I was saying I felt like. Even if what I said seemed inappropriate to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the point. We have all these kids telling us how they feel, and we're very quick to discount it and go, no, you're not. I'm feeling bullied, I'm feeling upset, I'm feeling, worried. No, don't be silly, let's just keep going on. A child who's clearly crying in class and a teacher goes, don't be silly, it's maths time, let's get back onto it. Actually, no, clearly that child's showing signs of distress, and they actually need some time. And, I've had some crazy conversations. If I think about the craziest conversation I've had, it's with a dad who believed there was a zombie apocalypse coming, and his child, no, I'm serious, I haven't had this conversation. A zombie apocalypse was coming, and his child couldn't attend the local school he needed to go to because he needed to stay home and do first-person shooter games to be prepared for the attack. Now, of course, you would hear that, and most of you would go, holy cow, let's bring in all the specialists and lots. But the problem was, every time people heard that at him, they just went, oh my God, he's crazy, and that closed off the conversation. Nothing moved forward for that child. He just still kept not attending, still kept staying at home doing first-person shooter games. Ignoring the crazy story that is attached to that, there was a feeling and emotion under that. That dad was petrified that his son was not safe. So the conversation we had was about, hey, it sounds like you're really protective of your child. You want to make sure he's going to be safe when he comes to school. How can we create a safety plan for him that you can feel confident he can be at school? We didn't even talk about the zombie apocalypse. What are you going to say to that? Oh, I totally agree with you. I do exactly the same thing at home. No. And you don't want to say, actually, that's bullshit. I don't believe you. That's just crazy. Because that also cuts the conversation off. You get to the underlying emotion, and we can usually find common ground around emotion and use that as a building block. So for that family, the safety plan was, he knew there was a perimeter fence, there was only one in-point and access point for people in and out of school. He could ring the receptionist and actually check that his child was at school, that it was okay. If he felt the need to suddenly come down to school and just check on his child, he could. Not that he actually ever did any of these things, but you can see how we actually put a plan in place around managing the anxiety for him, and it was a non-issue because his child was actually attending school from that point on. Whereas up until that point, because everyone had bought into the story, instead of hearing the feelings and the emotions under it and validating that, it actually never moved anywhere. So I don't know if anyone's got a crazier story than that. I have not yet topped that, and that was probably about 2 years ago now. So is that making sense? Look for the feeling, look for the emotion, and don't discount what someone else is feeling. You have no idea what is happening in that other person's mind or in their experience or their perspective. A few more tangents, sorry. We talked about the spoon theory, which I love, and I love that Emma says everyone gets their 10 spoons at the beginning of the day. But at the beginning of every day, a lot of our children come in with less than the number of spoons they need to have. If we poll this room, and let's say 10 is the absolute ultimate of you hit the jackpot for 10 spoons, how many of you actually came in, or got up in the morning and actually first thing in the morning actually still had 10 spoons? Because there's some of our kids with constant trauma. One hand, a brave hand, someone had a full 10 Kids with trauma, kids who are in ongoing neglectful environments, kids who just themselves have high anxiety, things could be happening to them, the perspective of their world is actually that it's not so good. They may only start, getting out of bed in the morning may only have 3 spoons to their name. 3 spoons is not a lot of currency if you've got a whole day to get through. The child who has chronic pain, who is never ever feeling like they're having a good day, we sort of assume everyone sort of resets overnight and they're going to have a good day, but actually some kids already reset to just an average or not so good day. So we need to be thinking about that. And my very last tangent, I promise to make up time, is actually about, and I love it, and I can't think of a simpler example, but we're kind of talking about kids as if they've become these issues or we've become these problems. Like if you think about it in relation to, and sexuality is the one that comes to mind because I saw some brilliant research about it, and we talk about when did people know they were gay? Like have you heard that question? That's a fairly standard question to ask people. When did you know? How did you know? But have you, if you were heterosexual in this room, has anyone ever come up to you and said, when did you know you were heterosexual? Has anyone ever suddenly gone, oh, I'm heterosexual? Like, was that ever a dawning moment for anyone? And we kind of do the same with kids. If someone could give another example, I couldn't think of a better one. That to me was just such a beautiful contrast. Because we just assume everyone is heterosexual, and then you become gay is kind of the essence of that conversation with someone. And we sort of do the same with a child who, their auditory processing or their autism or whatever it is that makes them uniquely them. We kind of assume that they've kind of gone off track from normal to get to that point, instead of appreciating that actually that's just them. We don't assume that a left-hander was actually a right-hander to start with and then flipped to the other side because it was just something to do. It's like, but yeah, we seem to have this essence for the kids that we're working with, that they just somehow, there was this option of A and B, and they just went, oh, bugger it, I'm going to go with B. So kind of keep that in mind when you think about the assumptions, and keep that in mind when you're looking at children and the lenses you're using and the assumptions you're making when you start thinking about what they're doing, why they're doing it, and what you're going to do to respond to that. Okay, that was my last tangent, I promise. All right, so this is not the same slide set with different photos. This is some familiarity from yesterday, but I want you to do some thinking. And so this is just a reminder about what assumptions were about, with a great little picture about the rumbling tummy and the look of terror on the face. And I love it because, the rumbling of the tummy could be many different things. How you associate it, the emotions you connect to that sensation of rumbling. Could be, oh yeah, I'm just hungry, whatever, not bothered. Some people, have you ever sat next to someone with a tummy rumbling and they're kind of just trying to suck it in and pretend it's not happening and getting really embarrassed by it. And others might go, oh, that might be diarrhea, I'm running to the toilet. How we associate those things, if you don't have good body awareness, you'll be doing a whole lot of weird things in response to that because you haven't understood what it is. All right, so we talked the other day about interoception, self-regulation and behaviour. I talk to people and I want everyone here today thinking about behaviour is usually the thing we focus on. It's at the end of the road, it's the stuff that bothers us, it kind of doesn't fit the classroom, it's not appropriate for whatever you're trying to get done in the maths class or with getting everyone quietly out to assembly. But I want you to think about behaviour in the context of someone's self-regulation and their interoceptive skills. So now, and we have got most people sitting in groups. I'm happy if you guys want to move around and mingle to find some other people, but I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to think about a behaviour that makes you unhappy. Because we're going to talk a bit about that behaviour in the context of self-regulation and interoception. So, it could be just an unpleasant behaviour, a child who picks their nose and flicks, a child that yells or abuses, a child that throws things. Pick your kind of number one pet hate, the thing that makes you the unhappiest, and we'll start thinking about those things. 2 minutes. answer. So is there anyone brave enough or thinks it's important enough their behaviour gets talked about that they would like to share it? What was the pet hate that people had at the table?
We had a nose picker.
A nose picker? Honestly, it's sometimes the littlest things that can bug people.
Can't stand it.
I have a lady who I used to work with who, if anyone took their pen, she would quite seriously look across at them and go, "Do you want to eat that?" And it didn't matter who she was meeting with, it didn't matter what their pay packet or pay level was, she would tell them that they were going to eat their pen if they kept doing that. So, nose picking?
I think sometimes our own behaviours can cause a young person's behaviours to that using my business
Yep.
and the impact that has.
Yep, absolutely. One more?
You pick scabs until they bleed and then you want to share. You know about that.
Lovely. We all love picking things, don't we? Good old acronym, why did they take that away? All right, so the behaviour you picked, I now want you to think about it in the context of self-regulation. Emma showed this beautiful picture yesterday, and it's here again for people who weren't here. Now, on that scale of being in rest and recovery or fight and flight. So rest and recovery means I'm okay, everything's good, my life is not in danger. On the other side, the sympathetic is that, you know what, this is a risk to my life, I need to fight for survival or I need to leave for survival. The behaviour you've just talked about, where do you think it sits in that seesaw? Is the child in fight or flight or rest and recovery? Like sitting on the beanbag, just happily sticking their nose. Yeah, rest and recovery, in a pretty relaxed state. The scab picking?
Oh, that isn't.
At the other end, fight and flight. Fight and flight, the behaviour, yeah. So automatically just asking yourself that one question, you've identified whether that person is actually in control and their brain is wiring in a way that says, hey, I'm consciously making this choice and doing this activity, versus I'm completely out of control, I'm just now acting from that very, very immediate desire to survive this situation. So you think of yourself when you've heard the tyre screech, if you've heard something and you think your child's in danger, you're about to hear bad news or the doctor says we need to talk and you immediately assume it's the worst case scenario and you've probably got 2 weeks to live. It's those situations where you suddenly go, and you're not thinking anymore. Time might slow down because you actually aren't. You're just picking your exit, you're picking, whether it's a threat. Like if you ever, watch movies, it's always a car park. Whenever you're walking through an empty car park, apparently that's really scary. And automatically you're on high alert because something's going to go wrong. That's apparently where every bad person in the world hangs out.
Are they always right about their assumptions where the child is?
Absolutely never right. No, sometimes right. But yeah, assumptions, the beauty of assumptions is you may not have them right. So, asking the question about self-regulation, you actually still need to ask yourself, where is the evidence of that? What does it look like for that child? Because we hear that children will go, they'll go from like 0 to 100. They suddenly just explode on us. Like I've never seen a child who just suddenly explodes. There are some very subtle but very obvious signs that a child is shifting from we're all good to we are no longer good. And sometimes that can be as significantly, as hard to pick in terms of just being a subtle colour change. It can be a child who, might just gradually start picking at their hairline. They might just suddenly stop giving you eye contact when they've been pretty good at talking and looking your way, and then suddenly they just sort of start closing in or closing down, or their shoulders might start hunching over. Like there'll be some little indicator there that is saying this child is now into the other side. So, in terms of that question, whether or not they're self-regulating, how different is your reaction to that? Are you going to treat the child who's in rest and recovery in terms of behaviour response the same as the child who's in a fight for their life and surviving? No. You're going to treat this very differently. If a child is actually in a cool spot and you can negotiate, you can talk, or you can calm and you can work through, absolutely. On this side though, all you're going to be doing is responding and reacting and trying to minimise the reactions right then and there, bringing the tone down. You talked a bit about this with Emma, matching the tone, bringing the tone down, leaning out instead of leaning in. Really minimal, slow, predictable things to do. One of the first things I do when I go in and meet someone who's, potentially violent or anxious and doesn't actually know is just physically let them eyeball me. Like, I don't go in there and go, hey, how are you? What are you up to? What do you want to talk about today? That's really threatening. Actually, just come in and be in that space. Physically, don't give eye contact. Be there so that they can see you. Let them eyeball who you are. Get a sense of you. And then, once they've given me some eye contact, once they've actually orientated towards me, then they're saying, hey, I'm okay with you coming over now and engaging. Or maybe not coming over, maybe just stay right there. But I'm okay if you talk to me now. Maybe throw a word or two at me. So actually, how we orientate to those things is really critical. And the other question I want you to be asking is interoception. What are the interoceptive skills for that person in terms of the behaviour? So if they're skin picking, do they even feel that? Like I've seen children who have no sensation, a high school student who thought it was quite hilarious because he had no sensation in his fingers, to say to his mates with a lighter, look what I can do. And of course burning the top of his skin off, completely damaging his nerve endings. But he had no sensation in those hands, and he thought it was hilarious, this party trick of holding a lighter up to it. No concept that that was actually going to cause permanent damage, possibly giving him a few less fingers to live with. In terms of nose picking, is there a level of awareness that you even actually have to? Like, it could be a reactive thing. This is annoying me. This is annoying me. This is annoying me. I know one teacher used to say that, as everyone streams into class, she had a tissue box and everyone had to pick up a tissue and blow their nose before they got to their desk. She had one of the healthiest classes ever. But also managed to address some of one of the kids in her classroom who was a picker. Because, it's easy to respond to something when it's annoying you, but, if you're bothered by it, if you actually don't realise it's there, or you don't realise, oh, hang on a minute, I'm getting that funny feeling in my nose, I'm getting that funniness in my nose, it means I now need to actually blow it. Or perhaps that child's got chronic hay fever, or perhaps that child's got other issues that are medically needing to be checked out. It may just not be the nose picking. Nose picking could be the end product of an underlying medical condition, another issue that is happening in terms of not knowing, not having those interoceptive skills to actually know that there's another option they can have. And I joke about it, but I'm going to use the diarrhea example. If you think about it, most of us have had some experience of having a bout of food poisoning or some sort of gastro bug. We're all lucky enough to have at least had probably one run of that, where you just go like, yep, that's it, we're not leaving the toilet. In fact, everyone else in the house is going to have to use the other toilet because there's no way I'm leaving this one for the next 10 hours. When you have that experience, you have some pretty immediate things going on in your gut. Most of us have that sensation of knowing, this is the bit where my gut tells me this is probably not a safe time to be going out and about, and perhaps I'm going to call in sick to school, perhaps I'm going to minimise the activities, stay home, not plan to do the big, out and about adventure I was planning. How many of you would actually go, yeah, bugger it, I'm going to go to school anyway, let's just see if it happens. Would anyone do that with a bout of diarrhoea? A brave soul over there. We usually don't. We set ourselves up in a way that makes us safe and secure. So if we think we can't actually maintain our bowels, if we don't think that today is the day we have control of our bowels because perhaps it was bad Chinese or a really nasty flu bug that was going around, we actually set ourselves up and scaffold it in a way that we don't have to be in a vulnerable situation where it might happen. But some of the kids we're working with, they actually don't have that intuitive skill. They don't know that. So they're going to be there in the middle of class or doing whatever they're doing, and they might then suddenly get the realisation that, oh, this is serious, and then they're the ones running off to the toilets or running away and trying to get away from it because they know something's about to go wrong, but they couldn't preempt it before school, or they didn't have the language to tell you leading up to that they weren't feeling so well. It's not until they have that acute incident. So interoceptive skills are really critical to understanding whether or not you're talking about a child who even has a chance to self-regulate. And if they don't have the chance to self-regulate, then every behaviour you're probably seeing for that child, going back to the other slide, is on the other side. It is in fight or flight. Fight or flight mode behaviour is very different. We're talking about survival behaviour. If you're talking about a child with survival behaviour, you need to be responding to them in a way that helps them create a calm, relaxing state that says this is safe and this is okay. So, are there any other behaviours people have picked up? We've had the nose picking, we had the scab stuff over there. We talked about the fact that if you don't have the interoceptive awareness, you don't feel it.
Thumb sucking.
Thumb sucking?
Yeah.
Yep. Thumb sucking is a good one. I think I have some slides about that a bit later on. So thumb sucking is really funny in terms of being contextual, because when you're little, it's really appropriate to suck your thumb. You know, when you're a baby, you kind of go, oh, look at that, and then, you know, in it goes. And, you know, even early sort of childhood, you know, it's okay to sort of suck your thumb. We sort of try and say to kids, don't do it. But, you know, even early school years, we've got kids who will suck their thumbs. But, you know, if you get a paper cut on your thumb, what's your first instinct? You suck your thumb. So every behaviour has a developmental context in terms of self-regulation. So you might have a child who's thumb sucking because they have not moved past that ability to self-soothe without a thumb suck. Or, as said, it becomes a behaviour that actually can become functional in different contexts. So be very careful in saying a behaviour is okay or not okay. Because if you think about any behaviour, there is always an appropriate context for that behaviour. So nose picking. Nose picking is an okay behaviour if no one else sees you. So perhaps not on the traffic lights. You know, when you're home alone, when you know you're not going to get, you know, discovered. But a lot of kids that we're working with don't have the ability to work through that. They don't know there's public and private. They don't know that it's actually not socially appropriate to do that, even though everyone might do it. It's like fasting, of course, because no one does that. But you know, sometimes when you've got a child with a disability, they don't have that screening and they won't understand the social context. So they'll do all those things. And the beauty of that, though, is you see up front exactly where they're at, developmentally, in terms of their skills. But anyway, I digress. We'll move on. So there were 2 more hands in terms of behaviours. No?
Chewing clothes.
Chewing clothes? Yep, self-soothing. Yep. Chewing clothes, buttons or zippers or something that are in that space, or putting something in your mouth. Studies show that if you're chewing gum, you're actually more alert and more attentive. So sometimes in itself it can actually help bring people into the space they need to be in. It's about helping regulate themselves up into learning spaces. For others, it can be about regulating themselves down to actually self-soothe around anxiety and actually make sure that they're actually not, you know, adding more stress to themselves. When you see it in yourselves, just even looking around the room, sitting at the back, actually, it's amazing just seeing how many different ways we all self-soothe or just kind of move and regulate, you know, tap, flick, you know, flick pens, you know, play, do things with our hands, do things with our feet. Like we do a whole lot of stuff ourselves, which we normalise because we're choosing to do it and it's okay. But then, yeah, I see these are the same things we sometimes pick on kids for in class. So contextualising it is really critical. All right, so I'm going to jump a little and actually talk to you a little bit about those assumptions in relation to thinking about disability and behaviour. So when we talk about a student and their behaviour, we're now going to be thinking about, do they have the self-regulation skills? And if they don't have self-regulation skills, do they have the interoception awareness to develop that self-regulation? This is usually how behaviour gets described to me. Oh, they've got a disability and they do this. So the whole leading issue is behaviour, and there's a bit of a disability thing there that obviously is why the behaviour happens. But actually what we know in the reality of that situation is there's a student who may have a disability, diagnosed or undiagnosed. There'll be some behaviour that might be associated with the context of their learning environment and what they do in class. And then there's a question mark and there's a whole lot of unknowns. And that's the stuff we need to unpack. So that's where your assumptions can lead in. Like if you're looking at that pie and thinking, no, it's just behaviour and disability, you're going to be off track. But that question mark is oftentimes interoception. There is behaviour and disability, but more often than not too, there is health, underlying physical and mental health issues. And not mental health in the way that, you know, you need to get them in an ambulance to Boyle ward, but, you know, that ongoing sense of anxiety, you know, those issues that just kind of, you know, low-grade issues that bubble along for that child so that they're not actually feeling safe and comfortable and well, mentally well. And I said, you know, physical pain is a big factor as well. The number of kids we seem to have in schools managing pain, we had, you know, one child that had, you know, an extreme need to chin, and he'd asked staff to put their hands up quite aggressively on his chin, and, you know, almost kind of, you know, wanting to be hit by them very aggressively. And they were saying that that was him trying to hurt staff because he was holding their hands so tightly and, you know, forcing them into his neck. And it turned out he actually had extreme pain in his bone joint. So the self-management treatment before when you have pain there is to do that. But he wasn't able to do it himself, he was asking staff to do that. So where staff were seeing it as a behaviour, because he kept wanting to hang, you know, grab their hands and do that to them, actually some ongoing Panadol, that behaviour actually went away, and staff actually started seeing it as a pain behaviour response And they had a pain management process to go through with him that actually resolved that. You can see if you just kept saying to that child with chronic pain, stop doing that. Don't do that, that's not appropriate. That wasn't going to have any different, that was going to have a different impact. You know for yourself, if you have a pain, if you've got a headache, you've got a really bad cold, you can't hear, you can't really think, you just want to be in bed because it's a fog. If people keep pushing you and keep expecting you to do stuff, you can't just close down, you can't think, you know. If you've ever had a migraine, you usually can only do one thing at a time, and that's usually just hide in a black room. But it's that process of actually working through what is that child trying to communicate? What is that actually about? So, these are some of the things that have come up as Emma and I have been talking to people and actually going out and consulting around some of the assumptions people have had. Constipation, I know we've talked about that a little bit. Constipation, sleep issues, reflux. We had one child with some really extreme behaviours, reflux medication, and he was like the best kid in the class. And now that's not something you're going to fix in the classroom without actually, you know, having that family go to the GP and get a good health review. Pain, and a lot of pain that presents as mental health issues. So if you have, you know, you see a child with mental health issues or concerns that they're, you know, dysregulated too, the first thing I'd be saying is, hey, have they got a good GP and are they getting a review? And of course, interoception. And those pieces just get, you know, more complex. You know, there's not one single answer for the kids that you're dealing with necessarily. It might be lots of little things that are really concrete and achievable that actually help build up that picture about what's needed. And these are just some of the examples of what's been said. It just gets more, you know, as you find out a little bit more, as you get to know the child, as you engage and find out what the evidence base is for them, you will actually be able to start to put those pieces together yourself. And, you know, as I said, the more you get to know, the more complex pieces will start to come out and be much clearer and much more concise in terms of what you can do about them. So, in terms of assumptions, I did show you a slide yesterday, but I want you to really orientate it to the fact that, you know, we are talking about interoception and self-regulation, which informs a person's behaviour. And the assumptions you put around that, around the student, their behaviour and their disability, will actually shape the decisions you're making for them. So the nose picking, which is, you know, just nose picking, if they're sitting there relaxed, that actually could be quite calming. That could just be the thing they do because they've got nothing else to do with their hands. You know, there could be so many different reasons why. It could be that actually last week it was really sore and now I just keep putting my finger up there just to check that it's still not, you know, or it bled yesterday or it bled the week before and I just keep putting my hand up there to see if it's, you know, going to bleed. You know, sometimes it'll be about a reaction they've had previously that has actually reinforced it because actually maybe that's the only social interaction they get. I put my finger up my nose and suddenly the teacher says, hey Johnny, what are you doing? Stop doing that. Whereas maybe up until that point there's not as much interaction. So as I said, the assumptions that sit around that can be around the behaviour itself. It could be, actually this child has no self-regulation in terms of understanding that this is not, you know, this is not an okay thing to be doing right now, and there's other ways I can be doing it, or I can suddenly excuse myself to the bathroom to manage this behaviour, or blow my nose. Or just the general awareness as well, that they just don't know what they're doing. They don't have that body signal. Alright, so I'm going to completely flip it into a completely different area, and I hope we don't freak everyone out about it, because people have different ideas about this area. But interoception, one of the areas that came up in interoception is air hunger. Does anyone know what air hunger is? Has anyone ever sat at the bottom of the pool, tried to hold your breath for as long as possible, and you get that sensation that says, you need to breathe? Has everyone had that? Do you assume everyone has that? Yeah. Would you be wrong? Yeah. Not everyone has that innate sense that I need to breathe. So this is where interoceptive awareness is really critical because, you know, these are some pretty important things. If you don't have a sensation that you need to come up for air, think about the kids who, and I think for myself, I used to do it all the time. You'd sit at the bottom of the pool, hold your breath for as long as possible, see if you could beat everyone else or see how many laps you could do in the pool whilst holding your breath. A lot of kids on the spectrum are showing that they actually don't necessarily have that interoceptive awareness of air hunger. So they're the kids that will probably just keep holding their breath and holding their breath. CIDSERT, when they did the analysis of deaths in South Australia, actually found quite a high portion of students, or a high portion of deaths around autism potentially related to water. They're now looking at, is there a component of this in that space in terms of leading to deaths? Because we can't assume that everyone will come up for air, because everyone needs to come up for air. In fact, talking to a parent the other day, you know, who's got a 40-something-year-old daughter, and they said they could never leave her alone in any water because she'd just sink to the bottom and sit there. She never had air hunger, so she would never come up from the bottom of the bath, from the bottom of the swimming pool, so they'd actually physically have to be in there and pull her up every so often to make sure she had a breath. So, and that's a pretty big thing. Breathing is, you know, pretty critical to survival. You want to make sure you do it regularly and well. But actually, that's actually something we just assume, we don't even think about. So if you've got a child in class, I mean, I'm hoping you're all thinking, wow, I just realised the universe got a little bit bigger. Like, this is only one part of an interoceptive, you know, awareness a child may need to have. There could be so many other things in your classroom that your child's trying to tell you that you just haven't heard yet because you're assuming your world is their world. And I mean, obviously that's not the child you want to do a breath holding contest with. So it's just about checking those assumptions, checking out that just because everyone else polled in this room, or most of us I know poll in this room as knowing that we have air hunger and we do have that protective mechanism, we actually have quite a few kids in the state who have brainstem abnormalities, so they don't necessarily have that breathing component to them as well for various reasons. So, not to scare people, because I think last time I did this everyone went, oh my god, we're never swimming in classes again. It's not about not swimming in classes, but it's obviously about being really clear with kids what's the safety side of swimming. Swimming means you actually have to keep your head above water every so often. You need to make sure you come up regularly and have a breath. Have you ever heard someone say that in instruction? Like we talk about, you know, having a swim and you've got to put your, you know, have a you know, stroke and then put your head up and have a breathe. But actually no one's actually said to the child, actually you have to do that because every so often, you know, we need to make sure we regularly come up and have a big breath because we need to keep breathing to maintain ourselves. And that again comes back to the comfort zone. We talked about this yesterday. That little comfort zone, that blue zone where you know this is the world, is actually your world. And everyone else in this room is going to have a slightly different comfort zone. So, I don't know how many of you ate frozen chocolate last night? I won't ask her, I know she loves frozen chocolate. I did say to people last night, think about your comfort zones and where you do and how you do things. So, and do that with a bit of chocolate. So put some chocolate in the freezer, put some chocolate in the fridge, put some chocolate on the counter, and then put some in the sun. And actually try that chocolate at the 4 different temperatures and find out which experience actually fits better in your comfort zone. And you might find surprisingly that one of them you wouldn't think to do might actually be the preferred option. And it's the same approach you take with kids when you're trying to check the assumptions. You don't just give them the options, you actually scaffold it and give them a couple of options so they can actually choose what it is that they want to do. Alright, now we're going to go into your personal body. We have talked about diarrhea, but we're going to come back to it. I asked the question yesterday about hunger and thirst. We started at the top end of the body. I'm going to ask you now about how do you know if you need to wee or poo? Have a little discussion at your table for about a minute or two about how do you know when you need to go to the bathroom? What does your body tell you?
Then they
most interested to listen now because we're going to let you have a break. So it is morning tea time. What I want you to do as you're eating and possibly going to the bathroom is continue to think about this sensation of needing to go to the toilet and what it means. Because when we come back from break, after you've had some experience, we're going to actually talk about what this means. So it's going to be a half-hour break, but that is because you have some homework to do in the break. And I don't just mean eating and going to the toilet. If you can spend some time doing what you need to, but then we want you to, in your groups, come over and pick some sticky notes. We want tables to pick 2 sticky notes each, because they are the they're the behaviours and the information we're going to ask you to shape as we talk through the rest of the day. And I'm going to ask you, what are the few things that make you realise when you need to go to the toilet? What sort of things came up in your conversation? Of course, it won't be about you personally, because we know you aren't the one that actually uses it. You just pick out glitter, but everyone else who doesn't, what sort of things did they comment on? Or what did they say?
About me and Philip.
Yep. Where they need to go.
Yep. The internal muscles.
Yep, some internal muscles. A sensation of movement and things happening, and perhaps a sensation of discomfort if you pretend it's not happening.
Yeah.
And a sense of urgency in terms of, this will wait till I finish this conversation, or, this is not going to wait, I'm going to have to excuse myself now.
Yeah.
Okay, you get some sensation that says how urgent this need will be. Anything else people orientated to?
There's some floating.
Floating? Yep. Did anyone just go because it was the break and you knew that was the time to go, so you wanted to go just because you didn't want to have to go in between now and then lunch because there may not be another opportunity? So some of us just went, even though we weren't actually physically getting a body signal, but we just knew it was convenient for now. And how many of you went because you knew you'd already eaten about 20 minutes before, you'd already drunk quite a bit during the thing, and you thought, well, I don't really need to go, but I know I've had enough that I probably could go now anyway. Any other ways you could work out that you needed to go? Yeah, you can get a bit more fidgety, or just, your physiological signals change when your body's saying, it's time to move some things through. So there's a whole lot of ways that you can actually identify when you need to go to the bathroom, and you do know you need to go. You need to know you go regularly, and that's actually something you can incorporate into your day. Like some of you might even think about, when am I going to have breakfast? Because I don't want to get stuck in the middle of traffic and really need to go. So that coffee is going to have to be at least half an hour before I leave, so I've got time to go to the loo, and then I can get in the car. Like you've ever seen that person who goes, I'm leaving, and then they come back in 5 minutes later and go, I just got to go to the toilet, and then I'm going. But clearly they weren't getting enough signals, or they were thinking, it's not that urgent, and then actually realised with a half an hour journey ahead of them, actually it's going to be more urgent than that, I do need to go right now. That's actually a lot of different skills to manage in terms of having an effective bowel regime or a bladder regime in terms of managing at school. It's actually a lot of steps involved in that process for a child to manage. So when you're thinking about the children in your class who come in after the bell and still need to go to the bathroom, or need to suddenly go and don't have time to tell you they're going because they're running out the door, or perhaps have trouble with soiling, any other things, there's actually a whole lot of things that they need to have in terms of skills behind that. So actually start to think about, what is that behaviour, why would I use that behaviour from the child's behaviour, whatever it might be, why would I use that behaviour? Like if that child's flicking poo, because it hasn't quite come off their fingers, why would you flick? When do you flick your fingers? Because you're trying to get something off, and you're perhaps thinking, I've got my other hand free, I can't wipe it, I'll see if I can flick it. Usually those behaviours have a functional component in the context of what's happening, but they're there because the child doesn't have other skills and abilities to actually manage it. Doesn't have the awareness of their interoceptive flags of when they're needing to go, can't self-regulate around their options. Now, I did want to talk about self-regulation, but we're going to move on because I want to talk to the activities. And we have talked about poo already, so I'm going to quickly say smearing and flicking is never behaviour. It is actually usually some sort of bowel dysfunction, which lack of awareness of your bowel signals. It's an inability to defecate successfully. Like most of us can go to the bathroom, we'll wipe once or twice and we're okay. Like, think of that child who's wiping and wiping and wiping and wiping and still wiping. Like there's actually quite a skill, and you've actually got to have a certain level of bowel capacity to actually manage some of those things. So on that note, we're going to stop that assumptions conversation, and you're going to orientate to some information about neuroscience.